Well, we'll get right to the big story this morning. The candidates looking to unseat President Trump are splitting sharply on health care and a so-called Medicare for All plan.
Senators Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren took center stage during last night's debate, and their moderate rivals took aim, accusing them of making fairy tale promises that would guarantee President Trump a second term.
ABC's Trevor Alt has the highlights from the debate hall in Detroit. Trevor, good morning.
Good morning, Janae. Good morning, Kenneth. Yeah, the focus from night one of these Democratic debates was largely ideological, which is pretty unusual for a party debate. Every candidate up on the stage talked about how it was critical to defeat President Trump in 2020, but there's some really stark differences about how they each feel is the best way to make that happen.
Say, can you see?
Night one of the Democratic debates in Detroit highlighting the internal struggle for the direction of the party, with moderate candidates challenging progressive leaders.
Is with bad policies like Medicare for all, free everything, and impossible promises that'll turn off independent voters and get Trump reelected.
Senators Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders, both with similar agendas and the highest poll numbers of the candidates on stage, not backing away from their ambitious ideas.
I don't understand why anybody goes to all the trouble of running for president of the United States just to talk about what we really can't do and shouldn't fight for.
Dominating much of the debate, health care, particularly Senator Sanders' Medicare for All plan.
For senior citizens, it will finally include dental care, hearing aids, and eyeglasses.
But you don't know.
Second of all,
you don't know that,
second
Bernie.
of all,
We'll come to you in a second,
I do know, and I wrote the damn bill.
But amidst all the sparring, the candidates never straying far from a central idea, the importance of getting President Trump out of office.
We are as divided and polarized as a country as we have ever been. And right now we have a president who uses fear to try to drive us further apart.
The thing you will be remembered for is whether in this moment with this president you found the courage to stand up to him or you continue to put party over country.
So tonight for night two of these debates, we've got a pair of candidates who already clashed in the first debate, Senator Kamala Harris and former Vice President Joe Biden. And Biden is, interestingly enough, a double-digit favorite, by far the frontrunner, but he was not mentioned at all in night one. Janae, Kenneth?
All right, Trevor Alt in Detroit, thank you.
Witnesses are describing the terrifying moments when a Walmart employee opened fire inside a store near Memphis.
The suspect killed two co-workers before being wounded by police in South Haven, Mississippi. He now faces 2 counts of murder. Investigators say the gunman was recently suspended for showing a knife to a fellow employee. People in the store when the gunfire started still can't believe what happened.
Kind of shook up over it, really, you know. We looked back to the store and saw this guy running into the store, and I'm thinking, why is he running into the store, you know? And just about 30 seconds later, we see 2 people run out of the store and then just a flood of people leaving.
The 2 people killed have been identified as the store manager and a 16-year-old employee. A police officer was also wounded. He was saved by his bulletproof vest.
Next to what some are calling the new college admissions scandal, wealthy parents are reportedly giving up legal guardianship of their kids so they can get financial aid.
And while the scheme may be considered unethical, it is legal. This morning, a legal loophole raising new questions about fairness in the college admissions process. The Education Department and several universities are now investigating a scheme that has allowed children of wealthy parents to qualify for financial aid. Here's how it works. Parents reportedly give up legal guardianship of their children during high school. Then, when their child applies for financial aid, the student can declare themselves financially independent, meaning the family's income and savings are excluded from consideration, allowing them to exploit the financial aid system meant for those who actually need help paying for school.
Lori.
But unlike the recent college admissions scandal that has actress Lori Loughlin facing possible jail time, experts say this newly uncovered scheme is legal.
It's first come, first serve. So if there are students who are taking these monies who really don't need it, they are really taking it away from families who are in great need.
Investigations by the Wall Street Journal and ProPublica Illinois uncovered dozens of cases in suburban Chicago with some of the implicated families living in million-dollar homes. With the average cost of college more than $32,000 a year, many are now saying it's become too expensive even for wealthy families. One mother whose household makes $250,000 a year admitted to the Wall Street Journal that she gave up guardianship of her 17-year-old daughter because they had already spent $600,000 sending their other kids to college.
One of the unfortunate things is whenever instances like this occur, there's always kind of an effort to say, well, we should tighten this up and should restrict the process. And if that ends up happening, I think the real losers will be the needy families, because then they'll be forced to jump through, many more loopholes just to prove they're not gaming the system.
And as for how many families have been gaming the system using this loophole, that remains unclear at this point.
Incredible there. Well, let's check some of the other headlines now. The American Civil Liberties Union says more than 900 migrant children have been separated from their parents in the past year, despite a court ruling blocking virtually all family separations.
Some of the separations were allegedly based on minor offenses or dubious claims. In one case, a baby was separated from her father because he let her sleep in a wet diaper. The ACLU is asking a federal judge to force the government to justify their reasons for continuing the practice.
6 people were hurt after being struck by lightning while working on a roof in Wellington, Florida. One victim took a direct hit. She and another roofer were rushed to the hospital in critical condition. More severe storms are expected today from D.C. into the Northeast.
The body of 1930s gangster John Dellinger is now set to be exhumed decades after he was gunned down by FBI agents. This may finally put to rest conspiracy theories that the infamous gangster is not buried in his marked grave. The Indiana Department of Health approved a permit sought by the gangster's nephew. Dellinger's gang killed nearly a dozen people as they robbed banks across the Midwest during the Depression. Well, the Air Force general accused of sexual misconduct is expected to take a big step later this week toward becoming vice chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff.
During a Senate hearing Tuesday, General John Hayden denied making unwanted advances on a former aide. She also attended the hearing. General Hayden appeared to get the support of most members of the Senate Armed Services Committee, including one senator who has shared her own experience with sexual assault in the military.
I, too, believe that truth still matters in this country. And the full truth was revealed in this process. The truth is that General Hayden is innocent of these charges. Sexual assault happens in the military. It just didn't happen in this case.
It says that if you're a senior general officer who is a popular guy, you will get away with felony sexual assault.
Even if the committee approves Hayden's nomination to the Joint Chiefs of Staff, the full Senate is unlikely to vote on his nomination until September.
Well, coming up, remembering a YouTube star after his tragic death at the age of 38.
Plus, the controversy is a 10-year-old is charged with assault for throwing a ball at his classmate on the playground. Those stories next. Popular YouTube channel host Grant Thompson has died at the age of 38. He died after a paragliding accident in Utah.
Thompson's channel, King of Random, has 11 million followers. YouTube posted on Twitter that the company is deeply saddened. The cause of the accident is under investigation. Now to the game on the playground that's landed a 10-year-old in court facing an assault charge.
He's accused of injuring another student during a game similar to dodgeball. Now some are asking whether this case may be race-related. This morning, a schoolyard game is leading to serious charges for a young boy.
These kids are basically playing a game that we all have played.
A student at this elementary school near Detroit was injured during recess back in April when students were playing a game similar to dodgeball. According to a police report, another student threw a ball at his face on purpose. The injured student's mother says he has a rare medical condition that makes head injuries especially dangerous.
He sustained facial tissue damage to his face. He had a black eye and a bruised nose.
The student who threw the ball, Bryce Lindley, was suspended for 1 day. But the 10-year-old and his family just learned he's now being charged with aggravated assault.
This is a kid that was playing on the playground with his friends.
The mother of the injured student says her son had been hurt before, and she reported it to the school.
My son was hit twice in the face with a ball previously due to this, and the child apologized to my son, and he said, "Mom, it's okay. We're still going to be friends."
Sorry that her child got hurt. I'd be sorry for any child that got hurt.
Prosecutors say the charges were elevated after it was, quote, determined that there was enough evidence for us to charge aggravated assault. But critics say it's too harsh, including comedian D.L. Hughley, who came to Bryce's defense, writing on Instagram, quote, ridiculous. These are kids being kids. Bryce's mother called the assault charge racist on Facebook, writing, quote, the only thing my son is guilty of is being a black boy. His first court appearance is tomorrow.
Let's go across the pond to ABC News' London Bureau, where Julia McFarlane is keeping an eye on the biggest international news. Hey, Julia, good morning.
Hey, guys, good morning. Well, it has been almost exactly 1 month today when President Donald Trump became the first U.S. president to step into North Korea. Fast forward to today, just over a month later, and what happens? North Korea has launched 2 short-range ballistic missiles. That's actually the second launch of short-range weapons in just over a week. The North described the launch as a warning to South Korea because they are angry that annual planned military exercises with the U.S. are still scheduled to take place next month. Japan, the Japanese Prime Minister said that there was no impact on Japanese security following the launch, but just shows how the protracted negotiations with North Korea still not making a huge amount of progress.
And Julie, we're learning about a Chinese blogger who used a filter to look younger. She was caught in a live stream glitch.
This is such an interesting story, Kenneth. Do you believe everything that you see on the internet? Well, thousands of people who regularly tuned into this Chinese beauty blogger. She calls herself Your Highness Bilwao. I'm probably butchering that pronunciation just there. She is known for hosting these online sort of chat rooms, and she used an aging or an anti-aging filter in order to look younger. Now, she was hosting a live stream when all of a sudden there seemed to be some kind of technical glitch, and there on the left-hand side you can see what users were seeing as actually her true appearance. Now, she only noticed that there was that technical glitch when loads of her VIP followers started exiting her chat en masse. Now, she's made a name for herself by soliciting a lot of donations from her audiences. A lot of her donors are men, and so this has sparked a big conversation about online culture in China, as well as beauty standards in the country.
And Julian,
fascinating story there.
That absolutely is, and equally fascinating, a church in the UK now has a mini golf course.
Yeah, right. Whoever said that church was not fun? This is a church in Rochester in England, and they are hosting this little exhibition which includes model bridges and railways, as well as this mini golf course. Now, the church is hoping to get people in to sort of connect with some of the landmarks and some of the model bridges that they have there. Let's hear how one young visitor found the experience.
And have you been into Rochester Cathedral before?
No. I've been to Rochester train station and all over Rochester, but not in the cathedral.
Does this make you want to go to more cathedrals?
Yeah.
Or does it make you want to play more golf?
As long as they have golf or something in them. I ain't just sitting there listening to words.
Well, pretty honest assessment there from that young visitor. But the Reverend has said that part of this is just to get more people inside these sacred spaces and hopefully encourage people to think about going to church a little more often, or even for the first time if they haven't.
Absolutely, because we ain't just sitting there listening to no words.
Julia, so I was today years old when I realized I'm missing out of listening to little ones who are English with an English accent.
Yeah.
I forget that you guys were children once and you grow up to become adults in the UK.
It's the cutest thing.
Wait, that is the first time you've heard a kid with an English accent?
It's not the first time, but it's the first time in a long time because we don't really, hear.
Peppa Pig, but that's about it.
Do you watch like British films?
No,
Harry Potter?
not at all.
No,
I don't. No,
but it was very cute.
We need Prince George to start talking now because it's like super cute.
That's true. We've not heard a word from the young prince. Wow.
See?
Surely one day soon, we hope.
I'm sure. All right, Julia McFarland, thank you.
Take care, guys.
Well, checking our notifications, the overhead bin was a bit packed on a recent Southwest Airlines flight.
The flight attendant was lying inside the bin while passengers were boarding the flight from Nashville to Atlanta. She did come down before takeoff. Imagine seeing that. Southwest released a statement saying its employees are known for demonstrating their sense of humor and unique personalities. Very unique.
While most kids are busy playing video games, an 11-year-old in Ohio has his sights set on the race for the White House. Jaden Jefferson is a budding journalist who joined the press pool when Senator Elizabeth Warren made a stop in his hometown of Toledo, and he wasn't afraid to ask the tough questions.
Yes, what separates you from the other candidates?
I can only tell you about why I'm in this fight. I see an America that works better and better and better for a thinner and thinner slice at the top. I believe we have a chance.
Jaden is already capturing national attention after CNN's political reporter MJ Lee shined her social media spotlight on the young reporter. He was later interviewed himself on the network.
After shooting the interview, I wasn't thinking much about it. I'm just like, oh yeah, I got an exclusive with Elizabeth Warren. But then,
no big deal.
But then when I got all the media attention, I was like, am I actually here right now? So it was just a shock. And interviewing her, she treated me like any other reporter. A lot of people pointed that out on Twitter.
Cool kid, even better journalist. Jaden tells our station in Toledo that his goal is to get into a prestigious journalism school and ultimately one day work for them.
Very cool. And finally, this was no jungle, and this line was definitely not sleeping. Watch as it creeps up on this little boy, pauses when the boy turns around, and when it turns back around, tries to make its move. That boy was unfazed. His mother, though, then brings his little sister in for a close-up, and watch. The wild animal pounces, though the family remains calm, protected by that glass. Of course, a lot of people reacting on social media.
You know what? I've watched a good bit of Nat Geo, so I know what happens when they stalk their prey there, and this is like a prime example right there.
Yep, remember these are wild animals. Well, coming up, the best way to break your worst habits and pick up some good ones.
That story next.
Here's what to watch out for today. It's widely expected that the Federal Reserve will cut interest rates today for the first time in more than a decade. Lowering rates is intended to encourage borrowing and spending to energize the economy.
Not sure if you've heard, but tonight is part 2 of the second Democratic debate. Tonight, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris will be center stage. Neither candidate's name came up during last night's debate. The candidates spent part of the debate arguing over whether a so-called Medicare for All plan would lose Democrats the general election.
Plus, don't forget to tune into the debrief for an update on all our top stories in the briefing room for a breakdown of the latest headlines in politics. Well, remember Cleveland Indians pitcher Trevor Bauer. We showed you earlier this week. He threw the ball over the center field fence in Kansas City, furious that he was being taken out of the game.
Well, it appears this will be his last act as a member of the Cleveland Indians. Bauer has reportedly been traded to the other side of Ohio. Reports say he's being sent to Cincinnati as part of a 3-team trade deal.
Finally from us this morning, whether it's an old flame or eating too much dessert, we all have our own hard habits to break.
Breaking bad habits is one of the most difficult things for humans to accomplish because the experts say we're actually wired for failure, but it's not impossible. Here's ABC's Dan Harris.
8 months ago, we rang in the new year right here in Times Square. Do you even remember what your resolutions were? Probably not, since some research shows 80% of New Year's resolutions fail by the second week of February. Our effort to right our wrong habits over. So why is making or breaking habits so hard? You can blame it on evolution. In order to survive, our brains evolved to focus on immediate issues like avoiding saber-toothed tigers. Evolution only really cared about us creating habits that helped us live long enough to reproduce. It didn't care about whether we were good about forming long-term, healthy habits like flossing our teeth. Which is why so many of us find it so fiendishly hard to stick with a diet or boot up an exercise or meditation habit. Enter James Clear, author of the best-selling book, Atomic Habits, an easy and proven way to build good habits and break bad ones. In it, he describes starting small using what he calls the 2-minute rule.
You just take whatever habit you're trying to build and you scale it down to something that takes 2 minutes or less to do. So meditate every day for a month becomes meditate for 60 seconds. So easy almost that you can't say no to it. If you don't become the type of person who meditates for 60 seconds 5 days a week, you have no chance to be the type of person who meditates for 40 minutes.
We decided to test out his advice. Jude Gant wanted help forming an exercise habit. We challenged her to do just 3 sit-ups every day for 2 weeks.
Just focusing on one thing made it a lot less stressful.
While Jude wanted to make an exercise habit, I wanted to break a bad habit.
The habit that I would like to break is late-night snacking.
If forming a new good habit is about making it easy, breaking a bad habit requires making it more difficult. For me, that meant putting snacks on high shelves, out of sight, out of mind. James also recommended something pretty extreme, a lockbox with a timer, which would make it impossible for me to get a rice cake after 8. Another hack, brushing and flossing early. The minty taste, he says, could reduce late-night cravings. As Jude and I got to work, we turned for inspiration to Mitch Presnick. The so-called micro-habits approach helped him lose more than 100 pounds. He started by going to the gym for just 5 minutes every day.
After about a month, I was dying to do 10 minutes, and I finally let myself do 10 minutes. And then after another 2 weeks, I was dying to do 20 minutes.
So how did Jude do after a couple of weeks?
So usually starting is the hardest part. So now that I've started something, it will encourage me to stick with it and to build upon it.
There's this quote by Ed Lattimore where he says the heaviest weight at the gym is the front door. And it's that idea, right? How can I make it easy to open the front door?
Well, I didn't find the lockbox super helpful.
I think it's not big enough.
The early brushing definitely helped curb my craving.
Is there a set amount of time it takes to form a habit?
The honest answer is forever. Habits are not really this finish line to be crossed. It's a lifestyle to be lived.
Good to know. The heaviest weight at the gym.
Is the front door.
Yeah, I'll say.
Thanks, Dan Harris. We appreciate it. And that is it for us this morning. We'll see you tomorrow.
See ya.